Welcome to the Seven Dimensions of Wellness. This episode will talk about one of the seven dimensions: spiritual, physical, emotional, career, intellectual, environmental, and social. Tonight's dimension will focus on environmental. We're going to talk about the environment. So, our guest recently became a dad as well. He was born in Manila, raised in Pompano Beach, Florida, matured in California, and works in the Philippines. He's a very good friend of mine and a coworker as well. Let's all welcome Kevin. Okay, so hi Kevin, how have you been? Welcome to the podcast.
Hello. I
Hi.
am awesome.
Awesome. All
How
right.
are you?
I am. Oh, okay. I am doing well, man. I'm doing well. So I do want to ask, man, like, can you briefly introduce yourself even further and further?
Sure. So, yeah, born in Manila, raised in Pompano Beach. Because of that, I really like the beach. And I grew up swimming and surfing and skating, all kinds of the cool sports with quotation marks.
Yeah.
Uh, I love the music scene from punk to metal to rap to underground hip hop, all kinds of things. Because going to a high school in the poorest of the suburbs, I had a lot of black friends. I've just I experienced a lot, so
Mm. You were part of the
pretty
hood.
wide range. Yeah, I guess you can say that.
Oh, and you did say that you had a lot of experience doing quote unquote cool things. Cool things. What was your favorite hobby back in Florida or California?
Mm, favorite hobby. I mean, there were a lot, as a teenager, we would we would usually, grab our skateboards and longboards and hit the beach, which was only like 5 or 6 minutes away from our houses. And from there on, usually we'd bring our skimboards or surfboards and then we'd hit the water. That was really fun. Sometimes we'd go snorkeling too. There are some spots with some clear waters. Um, yeah, just overall being in the water, whether you're fishing, surfing, or swimming, it's always been my favorite hobby.
Mm, yeah, because as you mentioned earlier, you really love the scenic view. Well, you love the beach and you love other things that rhymes with the beach. I'm kidding. I'm
Oh
kidding.
yeah.
Oh, here we go. So, it's up for the audience, I want the audience like to take a guess, like how old we are, because I haven't really disclosed how old we are, honestly. So now that you recently became a dad, and now you've also, you know, reside in the Philippines. Um, why gardening, man? Like we did hear about how passionate you are about gardening over the past few months. Um, what got you into gardening in the first place?
Yeah, that's a really good question because I've never even thought of plants
Yeah.
ever.
Mhm.
And yeah, meeting my uncle who was really into plants, house plants especially. I had so many beautiful plants. And my grandpa who recently passed, well, not recently, but recently when I came home, he was into bonsais and cacti and succulents, and they were all so cute and beautiful. So slowly I was building my interest in gardening and learning about how to be self-sufficient when it comes to vegetables and fruits. It just all added up together and pandemic happened. I couldn't go out, go to beaches and mountains because I love hiking too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So figured I'll bring it home with me. I'll start messing around with plants, see what I can
Uh-huh.
grow and how it all works out. And yeah, it's pretty fun.
I love that how you want to bring the nature in your house because you have mentioned before that you really love hiking. I think that's one of the first few hobbies that you shared with me when you were on your first day at work. Like you told me explicitly, like, well, I love mountains. I really love to hike and feel that sweat, feel the burn, and be one with nature. And how
Exactly.
right? So how did the how can I say this? How did it feel when you really couldn't go out anymore, but you were trying your best to put the aspects of nature in your home? Like basically like try to have the same feeling.
Yeah, I mean it was horrible, not being able to go out, being cooped up at home. It was like
Mm-hmm.
it was borderline depressing, you know, but having a completely different journey while staying at home really brought out the nature loving uh aspect within me.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's how I got my joy from being around nature, is just having as many plants, as many, living things around me. Not cockroaches. I hate cockroaches.
Yep. No cockroaches.
But yeah. Um yeah, just different colors, different designs, different looks. They all bring this amazing and beautiful look around your house. And that's what I'm trying to mess around with right now, is to see how I can design the look of the house with as many plants as I can possibly cram in. And it's not easy because a lot of plants, especially those fruiting plants like basil, tomatoes, other flowers, they all need a great amount of sunlight. And being in a townhome, we have like one side of the house with all the windows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm not a fan of grow lights, because that's a waste of energy, plus it's not natural.
Right. Right. So like as you were talking, I was like internalizing what you've said. uh I think a lot of our viewers and listeners are immersed with the horticulture. And for all the Filipinos out there, that's Plantito and Plantita.
And
Hell
Tito's.
yeah. Plantita and Plantita. I'm really interested, man, because by the stories that you have told me, like before the podcast, just to give the viewers a glimpse, Kevin was one of the most active people in physical sports, like hiking, traveling, and all the quote unquote cool stuff that you were doing back in California, right? Now that you have this lifestyle change, with the current responsibilities that you have with the family, with the pandemic, the work from home setup, a lot of people might find this in awe, that a cool person like the jock, like the one of the alphas before, settled down for a more natural and gentle hobby. So if this is my question, man, how did gardening impact your life? Like, are there any notable lifestyle changes you want to share?
Yeah, 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 definitely. Yeah. Gardening is is very low key. It's not something like taking care of a dog or a fish or a bird. It's very low key. Like you can literally let the plants be under, outside, and they'll be just fine.
Mm-hmm.
But having explored options towards gardening, being inside the house, different places, different spots, different media, whether it's water or soil or something inorganic, right? Like rocks. it it changes the dynamic, and I think that got me to become smarter in general, because I have to think deeply and ahead of how all these things affect the overall well-being of the plant. And I think that made me more responsible, not just letting it be, or doing what I want without a care for the things around me. Because now I have to keep an eye on like 20, 25 different plants, just to make sure
Mm-hmm.
they're not overwatered, or they're not drying out, or
Yeah.
there are no pests. Pests are the worst.
Mm-hmm.
and and yeah, it just keeps me on my toes, and I feel like I've become more responsible now that I'm doing gardening, and it's making me think of other parts of my life. Like I should be making sure that the whole family is happy, that my son, is getting the best he needs. Of course, I want him to grow up the strongest and smartest possible way, and it gets me to really think deeply on how to achieve that within my capabilities. And yeah, that planting and gardening really affected me in that sense, because I was a careless kid. I was a careless teenager growing up.
Mhm.
It's a huge change.
Thank you, man. As you were sharing the things you have learned, I remember a conversation that we had before, that you really take your time in studying all the different types of plants, like what do they need, what do they have to avoid, and what can be the best way to take care of them and let them grow to their full potential. And hearing this conversation now, really genuinely feel like you have already embodied the things you have learned, because you were a fan. You were a fan of propagating your plants. Like that's what I really like about this hobby, is that
Oy.
it it trains you to be more patient and be more aware of the things that you are actually doing with your life.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, when I started dabbing into propagation, I would check like twice a day to see if anything's happening. I'm pretty sure because of that, I probably overwatered some of them, or something. I did something wrong, and I killed a bunch of plants because of that. But over time, I learned to just let them be. Once a lot of plants, when you try to propagate them, as long as they're set up right, you can just let them be and give them a good amount of time, usually like a few weeks, in order to just settle down and be ready for actual planting in their permanent places. And yeah, that really built my patience when it comes to just being patient overall, because I have a short patience.
Yeah, we're both working on it, man.
Right?
Yeah. So I do have a question for you because I believe a lot of people have tried, gardening at in some point of their life. Now that you have immersed yourself in gardening for a long period of time, would you recommend this hobby?
Oh, yes, yes. This is such a great hobby. I mean, it'll keep you busy and not busy that you have to focus on doing something
Right?
for an hour or 3 hours or long. It keeps you busy throughout the day, every day. As in you always have something to do. You know,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes, I'm sure we all during this pandemic being at home, we all have those moments where we're like, okay, I don't have any work. I'm I ate already. House is clean. What do I do now?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And those parts of your life, you can definitely immerse yourself in gardening. Whether it's you're trying to repot something or just trimming one of your plants so it's more beautiful and it'll grow fuller, or just watering them is such a joy. Just seeing them. Some plants actually, when you water them, you can see right away that the leaves are healthier. They perk up. They like a Fittonia. My one of my favorite plants is the nerve plant
Uh huh.
because of not only how beautiful their leaves are. They look like they have nerves, and they have different colors too. Some are green, some are red, some are blue. And they have these like white looking nerve looking white things on their leaves.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
And yeah, you can, you don't overwater them, but if you let them dry out, you can see how sad they become. They fall over. But once you water them thoroughly, they perk up within, I don't know, like 30 minutes, sometimes even right away within a minute. They just stand right up and their leaves also splay out perfectly. And it's such a joy seeing that.
Awesome, man. Thank you. Because I just would like to add with the things you've said. If you're like an avid gamer like Kevin is, even I am an avid gamer, there's a few similarities between gaming and gardening. Because you game to distress, you game to earn progress, and sometimes like games can make you rage quit basically. Same goes for gardening, but you're not gonna rage
Totally.
quit because of a freaking plant. Come on, like what the grow. Yeah. So it all goes back to I'm getting a little bit scientifical here to dopamine, like our happy hormone. If you're already in the phase of your life that you feel like the hobbies that you're doing are no longer cut out for you, you can give gardening a try.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. And you can add it, to your hobbies. You can just squeeze it in there. Plant gardening doesn't have to be your main hobby. It doesn't require a lot of attention to be successful in gardening. There's so many different kinds of plants, and just choosing the right plant for your available time and how much you really want to put into gardening is the first step. So hey, if you don't have enough time, if you have very little time to garden, start with ZZ plants, man. Those things don't die.
Like a cactus.
Yeah, cactus too. Yeah, they work just fine on their own.
Mm. All right. Thank you, Kevin. So, yeah, that's it, man. Would you like to add anything else before we wrap up the podcast?
Maybe a shout out to our executive manager,
Oh,
Miss Regina.
oh
We miss
yes,
you.
because she was supposed to be in our recording, but maybe she's busy for the today. So yeah.
Maybe next time.
Maybe next time. Hopefully, man. Hopefully. All right. So, Kevin, thank you so much for being in the podcast. Thank you for tuning in. The show notes and everything that's mentioned in this episode will be posted soon on our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/runaway podcast. Facebook.com/runaway podcast. So, subscribe to the podcast, share the podcast, run away with Runaway Podcast.